Next speaker is the second star of the evening, a very bright star, because stars shine very bright in the dark African skies. I had the opportunity to meet the next speaker more than a year ago in his habitat in the Virunga, in the middle of a crisis, at the moment that he was supposed to be leaving for his family to Kenya. But then the situation of the killing of the guards forced him to stay around. He was very composed, very calm, phoning and radioing to all his people in the field to comfort them, to keep them informed about what's happening. It was a very intriguing situation to experience, how you can stay so calm in such a difficult circumstance. And of course, I think that's one of the main assets that you need when you want to work, to do the work that he's doing. And I'm talking, of course, about Emmanuel de Merode. Probably could call him now the Hugh Grant of the Belgian aristocracy, because of his antecedents. But apart from his antecedents, he's an anthropologist by training. He has worked for a very long time in Africa. He lives a long time in Africa. He has started for more than 20 years ago to work in the Garamba National Park. And now, today, he's a director and a chief warden of this famous Virunga National Park. Emmanuel, we're very happy to have you here, and please, the floor is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I feel very humbled for many reasons. One is to be able to share the stage with our Deputy Prime Minister, with such brilliant orators as Colette Braeckma and Dirk, and my friends from WWF, but also to have such a wonderful audience. There are so many of you. And coming here, I came to realize that this is the first time that I've been able to present to such a large audience in 30 years. The last time I presented to such a large audience, I was 11 years old. And it was for a school play. And my teachers had decided that the best part for me was the backside of a horse. It was very disappointing. And I'm therefore very grateful for WWF and to KBC for arranging this, which is an opportunity for me to heal the trauma of my youth. Of course, I've come here today to tell a story. It's not my story, but it's a story that's very personal to me. It's the story of Virunga's Rangers, with whom I've had the incredible privilege of working for some 12 years now, and over the last 5 years as their commanding officer. Before coming on to that, I do feel inclined, although it will be done much better than I can by Marc Langui, and has been done so well by Tanguy Dumortier and Tanguy Dumortier's film, which is just to say a few words about why we put so much effort into this national park in Central Africa. And when I say we put so much effort, it's very much a collective effort. In looking around the room, I see many, many familiar faces of people who've committed big chunks of their lives to Virunga, and have made it possible for this park to survive. And they, of course, know who they are. But it's important to say a few words about what drives that passion. And nowhere better to start, of course, than with the Ruwenzori Mountains, the famous mountains of the moon that were referred to by Ptolemy, and which drove the human imagination for over 2 millennia, and drove some of the greatest dramas and the greatest adventures of the 19th century in this attempt to discover these mountains as the great source of the Nile. These mountains are in Virunga, and I like to start with this slide because being called the Mountains of the Moon, it refers to the eternal snows that are the glaciers on the summits, but of course they're not eternal at all. by 2025, there will be no more glaciers on the summits of the Ruwenzori Mountains. And that, after 2,000 years of driving the imagination of the civilized world, that will no longer exist. And I start with that slide because we feel that's probably the only problem, the only challenge, the only threat to Virunga National Park for which we can do nothing. The rest is something we on the ground can fight for with your support, and there are solutions that can be found to resolve those problems. But of course, from the summits of some of the greatest mountains in Africa, the park will also take you to the volcanoes and will give you a glimpse of the very center of the earth. And so you have these extremes, which is one of the defining characteristics of Virunga, is that you have such an incredible range of landscapes, an incredible range of species, perhaps like no other park on earth. But of all these features, of course, it's the mountain gorillas that brings us to Virunga. They were the initial reason why I went to Virunga those years ago, and it's one of the primary reasons why so many people are drawn to this park.